prime minister and his cabinet. They're the ones that are closest to the issue right now, and they're going to have to figure out what buttons they're going to push.
These liberals are all the same. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we've got Carney caught in some dirty situations. Carney shows off his arrogance once again to the cameras, and it appears one of Carney's floorcrossers is being sued. We got a bunch of stuff here. Let's jump into this. We got the media going full bore, trying to get Poilievre out. They desperately trying to. I mean, we got polls suggest more conservative voters now want to replace Poilievre as leader. So this is coming from Angus Reid. So the poll surveyed 1,646 Canadians, including 590 who voted conservative in last year's election. That's right. So only 1/3 of these people voted conservative. Among the Tory voters here, 57% said Poilievre should stay on as leader, which is down from 68% from last year. There's a whole bunch of things wrong with this data coming from Angus Reid. First off, this is opt-in. So anyone who wants to be a part of this, they're not randomly sampled. So you're going to get people who are anxious to give their opinion. You're not going to get just everyday people who are working and too busy to do these polls. And you can see the data right here. Second off, I mentioned 590 people voted conservative. That's not a big enough sample size to have any sort of polling data that's being pushed out across Canada, let alone on CTV. Thirdly, this polling data, which we can see here, Angus Reid Institute conducted an online survey from April 15th to 17th. This is right after the Floorcrossers and the by-elections, so obviously it's going to have fresh bias towards being negative on Poilievre and pro-Carney. This doesn't provide an accurate snapshot of the entirety of the, say, the past month or last 3 months, last 5 months, since Poilievre got his record-smashing 87% during the Conservative Leadership Convention. Now, the biggest thing we need to point out here is the Angus Reid Institute, who was commissioned to do this poll, has been caught with this kind of stuff. You can see surveys.angusreid here. Somebody screenshot this from a previous poll. I mean, look at this. Pierre Poilievre is a radical extremist who would risk the rights of Canadians. We cannot let him win and become prime minister. This is an option. Or Pierre Poilievre would bow to Trump and let him walk all over Canada. How is this option 1 or 2? This is preposterous. So obviously you're going to get skewed results when you have terrible questions like this on polls. The Woke City News did not hesitate to push this out.
But the figures here showing that Poilievre's popularity amongst past conservative voters is starting to erode further. 30% of people who voted for his party in the past think it's time for him to step down as leader. That's a big jump from last year. Last August was the last time Angus Reid asked this question, and back then they found only 18% of conservative voters felt that way. And that's notable because in August they had lots of time to process the result of Poilievre's unsuccessful election campaign, both nationally and in his own riding. Remember,
Yet they don't point out the fact that they ask these draconian questions like extremist, radical Poilievre or bowing to Donald Trump. It's preposterous, and it's only 590 people. What a load of garbage this polling data is, and shame on these people for putting this crap on national television. Moving ahead, we got table salt with this. Breaking: the entire Canadian economy is being held up by government capital spending. Navy blue. So he's talking about this one here, this dotted blue line. You can see government, general government, gross fixed capital formation. This is household expenditure, this black line. We've got housing down here, and we've got export of goods, this one. Non-residential business investment is this little dotted line. He goes on to say it is literally preventing the housing investment collapse, orange, from taking down the economy. We're cooked. Where we are right now with the housing situation in Canada is Justin Trudeau pushed people to go get mortgages back in 2021, 2022. Interest rates are at historic lows, Glenn. Remember that? And people went out and got mortgages, trusted Justin Trudeau, got 4-year, 5-year, variable, and fixed. And those are coming up now. Trudeau spent more as prime minister than all other prime ministers combined, basically printing money out the wazoo. And that dramatically increased inflation. We can see that here. So Trudeau, well, got in much earlier than this. This goes back to 2017 here. But basically, from 0.25% that all the way up to 5%. Now we're back down to 2.25%. But this doesn't tell the whole story. If we look at mortgage rates, which we have here, so this goes back to 2021 here, and the different colors here are the different rates. So this blue one is 1-year fixed, 3-year fixed is this, 5-year fixed is this, and then prime at the bottom here. Back in August of 2021, we have interest rates from 2.79% 1 year. Most people are going to get much more than that, all the way up to 4.79%. And today you can see the numbers are are all 5.49, 6, etc. The interest rates are higher, so people who get new mortgages now will have to pay a lot more money. People will default on these, they will go bankrupt. People are having to sell this because they're realizing they can't afford these houses anymore, which is why we're seeing housing prices coming down. This is Toronto real estate history here, and we can see 2021, which would be right here, this area. Trudeau says go buy something, so people go buy stuff. They trusted Justin Trudeau, and now we can see the prices coming down because, well, new mortgages, people can't afford it. The housing industry is starting to get rocked right now, and because building supplies are so expensive, builders aren't building new houses at the previous rates we have seen, so we're getting a double knock-on effect here. Jumping ahead here, we've got Michael Cooper bringing this out, disturbing. Prominent CCP insiders paid $2,000 each to meet Carney at a Liberal fundraiser. Carney's team had to know their close ties to Beijing. Alarm bells should have gone off. Instead, they had direct access to the PM. Carney is cashing in on Beijing's influence operation. China allies paid $2,000 to attend his fundraiser. We know full well that they know everyone that comes in because they vet everyone. That's why Rebel News can never get into Carney's events, because as soon as they show up, they know who they are and they don't let them in. Same with a lot of other people. They kick people out if they're conservatives. They don't want conservatives in there filming stuff or asking difficult questions. They 100% vet every single person that goes to these events, so they would know these pro-Beijing people coming in and paying Carney $2,000 a pop. Moving ahead, this is quite the story here. So we've got Josh Ryan posting this, we've got Mark Nixon posting this, Mario Zelaya posting this, Sean Rickard posting this, a bunch of people posting this. A civil lawsuit against Floorcrosser Marilyn Gladu is being organized by the constituents of Sarnia, Lambton, and Bakaewang riding for breach of fiduciary duty, stating she ran on conservative promises, took conservative donations and votes, and then crossed the floor to the Liberals. Now, if you go to the website, this is what it looks like. suegladu.ca legal fund. This website is claiming that Marilyn Gladu committed fraud and that they are suing her personally. This is an allegation that is not proven in the court of law, and that's what they would need to move forward with on this lawsuit. So I don't know anything about this website aside from just what's going on here, people sharing this, but this seems like this is a real thing. People are organizing to sue her. On April 8th, 2026, Marilyn Gladu, MP for her riding here, crossed the floor to join the Liberals. This was not a change of heart. 40,597 voters, hundreds of thousands of volunteers, and dozens of donors who funded her conservative campaign less than a year ago. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. It goes on to mention here Section 119 of the Criminal Code of Canada, the scale of betrayal, donations, her salary, raised and spent over $102,000. What she told you, what she said, I mean, looks like they're building a case against her. I've been seeing a lot of comments of people saying this riding is not going to take this laying down. They're going to do something about it. And well, that's what this looks like. I'll keep you updates if this does go forward or if this falls apart or what happens here. Moving ahead, we've got Pierre Poilievre posting this. Canadians carry more debt than what our entire country produces in a year. Nearly half of $200 from insolvency. Working people can't keep up with the cost of Carney's illusions. We must build strength at home by lowering taxes, removing red tape, and green lighting projects so our people can afford lives. Posting a graph here, household debt as percentage of GDP, and Canada near the top. Only Switzerland beating us here. We've got average country 58%, and the United States is down at 71%. And while we're talking about the cost of living, we got Ryan Gerritsen clipping this one here. We've got David Cochrane doing his thing, trying to spin this story that there's an admission fee for Canada to get back to the negotiating table. I'm going to show you here Brian Lilly basically kind of debunking it, that that's not really what's going on.
Talks with the United States are at risk of derailing before they have even begun, as Radio Canada has learned that the United States is demanding a so-called entry fee for Canada to even sit at the negotiating table. But Prime Minister Mark Carney says he's not prepared to make any more concessions.
We have multiple levels of contact. We worked through a series of issues. We understand what some of the what the Americans would call trade irritants or trade issues are. We have some on our side as well. It's not a case of the United States dictates the terms. We have the negotiation. We can come to a mutually successful outcome. It will take some time, and we will take the time.
I don't buy it. I mean, really, America does dictate the terms because they have most of the power, but we do have some very important leverage. If we started building a refinery last year where we could start refining our own oil and we didn't need to sell it to America, then I think they would change their tune. That's the biggest leverage we hold over them, and we're not using it. That's the problem.
We also heard today from U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, who testified before lawmakers in his country. He says Canada's trade policy is growing more incompatible with President Trump's.
They've indicated that they want to be trading more. They want to have more trade agreements with more countries. They're doubling down on globalization when we're trying to correct for the problems of globalization. So those are two models that don't fit together very well. The president, his trade policy has not changed. He's not going to go back to the old situation where we had no tariffs and we just let foreign goods made by foreign workers come in without any fee to the detriment of domestic workers.
Lisa, I want to start with you. Jameson Greer seemed quite upset that Canada is acting as a sovereign nation and trying to look after its people. How do you approach this new dynamic of suddenly they want more concessions before they start talks and they don't like the fact that we're trying to look after our own interests, it seems?
I know it's so frustrating. I understand, David, that one of the things that really annoys the United States is this ban on American booze on our shelves, and it really gets their goat. But I was thinking about this, before we came on today. Even if the provinces reverse these bans, do you really think Canadians are actually going to buy it? I mean, are they going to be interested in purchasing these brands given what's happening? It'd be an interesting experiment, let's just put it that way. But to answer your broader question, I mean, this is something that's going to have to be the strategy. Prime Minister and his cabinet, they're the ones that are closest to the issue right now, and they're going to have to figure out what buttons they're going to push. But the reality is that we have to go back and chat and talk with them about what kind of renewal or redoing of the agreement there's going to be. July 1 is the date that we're all working towards, but whether or not we're going to hit that date seems to be a mystery as well.
So this whole narrative here that we have to give up something to just get back to the table is being pushed by mainstream media. We got Brian Lilly here of the Toronto Sun basically debunking that this isn't the real story. This isn't honest what the CBC is pushing out with this story, because that's who this came from, was the CBC. So he points out here, national broadcaster isn't alone in failing to tell you the truth on cross-border trade talks. CBC story claiming Americans wanted an entry fee. They also claimed that Canada had already given the United States concessions and got nothing in return. They pointed to the Canadian government rolling back some retaliatory tariffs last September and scrapping the digital services tax. The tariffs on the Carney government rolled back last year were on consumer goods like food, coffee, furniture, and appliances. The Americans had imposed tariffs on our steel, aluminum, and autos, while responded with tariffs on goods coming from the US. We also imported $30 billion worth of tariffs on goods that the Americans had not tariffed. Their announcement of 25% tariff on virtually everything on March 4th, 2025 was clarified by March 6th to make clear that CUSMA compliant goods were not subject to the American tariffs. By that point, we had already imposed our counter tariffs on CUSMA compliant goods, and we didn't lift them. We kept them on until September 2025 in violation of CUSMA. So that's what this comes down to, is Carney violated the CUSMA agreement. He points out here the digital service tax was a CUSMA violation, the DST a clear violation of Article 19 of CUSMA, point where Democrats and Republicans had made as Trudeau government was passing it into law. The American side asked Carney's team to pause implementing the tax as shown as good faith. They refused. So they violated the agreement multiple times. So he says there's never any demand for an entry fee. There's no demand, but Americans would like the Canadian side to offer something like allowing American booze back on the shelves to get the talks going. And as Lisa Raitt just pointed out, what's the loss in doing that? If Canadians aren't going to buy it anyways, then who cares? Put it back on the table. Let's get to negotiating. That's only if Mark Carney wants to get a deal. And you know how I feel about this. He doesn't. Interesting narrative that CBC is spinning here and not telling the full story.
Yeah, and, Janice Charette did say that a check-in, not a cliff, that you can keep negotiating afterwards and still find ways to preserve the deal, because you can do anything at the negotiating table with willing partners. But Cameron, that's the question, right? Doug Ford did tweet today, like, no booze is going back on the shelves until the tariffs come down, or I guess the Algoma workers go back on the job in Sault Ste. Marie, for example.
Another thing that came up with Doug Ford is he's now selling the new jet that he just bought for the Ontario government. He bought it from Bombardier, and now he's selling it back to them after all the backlash.
What do you make of these latest sort of postures and developments we've seen in the last couple of days?
Well, I think it's nothing new for this government. Any negotiation or conversation with the U.S. tends to start on these terms, where they try and coerce the trading partner into making concessions right off the bat. I mean, the reality is it's an asymmetric negotiation. It always has been and always will be. And I think the Prime Minister is setting the tone right. He has to get the optics right. He has to make sure that he
So you can see how dumb this guy's take is after you just saw Brian Lilly's article here. Of course, this guy's not going to read that. He's going to just push out Carney's agenda. That's what these guys do. The guy loyal to Trudeau, he's loyal to Carney.
Demonstrates continually that he's fighting for Canada's interests. But at the same time, the coalition building that he's doing is the right approach.
Carney was questioned about this in the halls of Parliament. He doesn't turn around until the word showboating comes out.
More than that. On your policy, saying you need to explain your plan to Canadians on trade talks. It says you're showboating too much. You need to stop the YouTube videos.
Have you ever negotiated
We got Evan Solomon coming out with this. We're building the first public AI supercomputer owned and operated in Canada to power innovation across every sector. Yeah, okay. They're building this for Brookfield to benefit from.
When you're trying to compete against the best in the world in AI, you need the best equipment. And Canada has the best AI talent in the world, and now we are giving them the best equipment.
Wait a second, they're going to bring up Connor McDavid again because Wayne Long said Connor McGregor.
It's like Connor McDavid making sure he has the right equipment to win the Stanley Cup. We're doing just that.
I think they're trying to smooth that whole situation over. Now, what Evan Solomon is not going to tell you is Brookfield is a world leader in data centers. As we see here, all these ones across this whole data center section here. So they have data centers in numerous countries. With this announcement, who does this benefit? We got Mario posting this. The Liberals want to build an $890 million sovereign AI supercomputer. The applicants allowed non-for-profits and post-secondary institutions. Just burn the money, bro. I mean, well, what do we even say to this? This is who can apply for this. Applicants must attach proof for not-for-profit status or proof that their organization is a post-secondary institution. We're not a serious country.